Hello, good afternoon. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your questions. Go ahead, put your questions in the comments now. I'm on limited time and I want to make sure I focus on questions. There were questions I didn't get to yesterday, so I want to get to those. So please go ahead, type those questions in the comments now so that I can answer them. One thing I did want you to know while you're typing your questions in is I talk often about the T visa. If you're put in a situation you didn't want to be in, and you ended up stuck because a person or an employer made you feel like you needed to stay in that position to do work for them or do acts against your will, then that can get you the T visa, because it is a form of trafficking. Now, one of the things I did want to let you know about is if you have a child who's about to turn 21, if you apply for the T visa before that child turns 21, they will not age out. They will get the T visa along with you upon approval. So that's all the more reason to apply for this if you do qualify. But you need to talk to me ASAP so that we can determine you qualify and then get started. All right, if you came up on the J1 visa and you're married, how do you become citizen? I'm asking for a friend. All right, so you came up with a J1. My first instinct is to ask, are you subject to the 2-year foreign residency requirement? Because that's usually the reason you wouldn't be able to move forward with your process as the spouse of a citizen, is if you had the 2-year foreign residency requirement. You need to apply for a waiver of that foreign residency requirement in order to then move forward with getting your residence through your spouse. My wife has E2 visa while I'm the primary E2 visa holder. Does she need a work permit to work for your company? Yes, to be able to do any kind of work, even if it is work for your company, she will need a work permit for that. All right, put those questions in the comments. I'm looking, so put those questions in the comments now, and I will answer. How long is it for interview after NVC approves application in Canada? So right now I am seeing a trend across the world of about a year to even 2 years. So be prepared for that timeline for the interview. Might be shorter, might even be longer, but I'm noticing an average wait time for the interview of about a year and 2, or up to 2. How to go about getting a special juvenile green card. So what you're referring to is the SIJS, Special Immigrant Juvenile Status. And if the child has been abandoned by at least one of their parents, and they're here in the United States, they can qualify to apply for special juvenile status that gives them the ability to stay here, get their work permit, and then once they get approved for that, they go on to getting the green card through adjustment of status. Now, there are some steps involved. One is that we, in order to move forward with the SIJS process, you need to get what's called a predicate order from the court stating that, declaring then that the child is an abandoned or abused juvenile who then, or mistreated, so abandoned, mistreated, or abused, and they are now in the hands of the guardian, and the guardian then the court then declares that the guardian will be in charge of the child. So that's the first step, is to get that predicate order. Once that order is issued, some states, if you get it before the age of 18, then that child can still qualify. In Minnesota, for example, where I'm also barred in Minnesota, they have put the definition of a child as 21, under 21. So you have up until you're 21 to get this predicate order. Once you get that, then you can move on to applying using the petition, which is the same as the VAWA petition, the I-360. to get special immigrant juvenile status. Once that's approved, then adjustment of status is next. So it is a process. It's a multi-step process, but it's absolutely possible. So if you have a juvenile, anybody who's under 18, maybe even under 21 in your care, whether you're and that child does not have at least one of their parents here in the US, then it's time to review whether they can qualify for this. All right. Is USCIS going to expedite I-601 waiver for Afghan beneficiaries? So I have not heard of that happening. You can certainly ask for them to expedite your individual case based on your particular circumstances, but I haven't heard of a blanket expedite of the I-601 waiver for Afghan beneficiaries. But there are ways to ask for individual expedite. After T visa approval, how long before derivatives come to the US? So I would say, and it depends on the visa process at the embassy, but it can be anywhere from a month or two after getting approval. Right now, a month or two. Can you travel on valid conditional green card if you are divorced? Yes. So if you have a valid current green card, even though it's conditional, which means you have the 2-year green card, you can, yes, travel, work, do everything you want to do. But you're gonna want to explore how to move forward from the 2-year to the 10-year if you're divorced. And the general procedure is you have, in order to get from 2-year to 10-year, you still have to show how you are applying with your spouse, that how are you still living with your spouse. If you can't show that, you have to apply for a waiver to apply on your own. So make sure, give us a call, let's talk about that, and then we can move forward from there. Is it possible to get filed for by parents if the person is 20 living in the US, or is it too late? If yes, how long? So if the parent is a US citizen and the child is 20, get on it. Yes, absolutely. Actually, it would be a faster process. Once the child hits 21, it's going to turn to a 5 to 7 year process. If the US citizen files for the child when they're 20, it freezes the process. It freezes their age for immigration purposes. So they will not be going into a longer process. It would take about a year, up to a year. It could even take a few months to go through. After submitting your papers, how long does it take to get a receipt notice? I'd say 2 to 4 weeks, just depending on how long. After submitting your paperwork, so I answered that. My mom sponsored me. I'm 44 years old. The I-130 was approved. Can I get interview here? I'm here 9 years. Get legal advice. Unfortunately, that may not be possible unless you qualify for Section 245I. Which is INA. It's a statute, but with the statute, if you are filed for on or before April 30th, 2001, and it just depends, but if you meet certain physical presence requirements, it just depends on when you were filed for, then you may be able to qualify to stay here and get the green card through adjustment of status. Other than that, it's slim. But this is where it's so important to talk, because when in the consultation, sometimes we find alternatives to just the parent process. I'm on F1 visa. My wife is my dependent. I'm Indian and she's born in Saudi. What's the process of getting the green card? So unfortunately, you would not be able to apply for the green card just based on these facts alone. You can get it through family, through employment, through investment in a business, but we would really need to talk to you in an appointment to determine what would be best for you. When derivatives of T visa get that visa to come to the US, will they get a special timeline to travel? Yes. So they do get time to travel, and that time can range up to 6 months. How long does it take for USCIS to give you a date after sending you a notice for an interview? So I don't, it depends. Usually the notice for the interview has the date. So I'm not sure what kind of notice you got. I received letter to send evidence for husband's green card. Do I have to file taxes together? Do you have to? It's not a requirement. It's good evidence, but it all depends on other factors as well, especially when it comes to tax, you trying to balance even tax liabilities. So get legal advice, but do you have other alternative evidence to show the bona fides of your marriage? That's also important. Can I apply for T visa out of country? So it is possible to apply for it outside of the country if you can still show that you meet the specific requirements of the T visa, that you are trafficked in the United States. There is a physical presence requirement, but I'd have to determine your facts to see if we could still get around that physical presence present on account of the trafficking requirement. They didn't send me a date. They say they will send it to me. So I don't know what kind of application it is, but I guess it's just a waiting game right now. Can a person who overstayed their visa travel to Florida? I would say this: it is possible for you to travel to Florida. How you do it is going to depend on your particular circumstances. In general, I say Florida is not safe for immigrants right now. Um, but whether, it just depends on your purpose of travel, how you're traveling, your circumstances, and your entry into the country. What's the cost for the consultation fee? $150. So go to the link in the profile if you'd like to schedule your appointment. I recently got married. What's my next step? Wedding was January. So if you got married to a US citizen, then now it's time to determine whether you're going to file your applications. Yes, I do have other evidence. Since we got married, we filed separately, just me and our daughter. Okay, so if you have other evidence, I don't know your case, I'm not your attorney, I'm not giving you personalized legal advice. This is where I leave it up to you to get the help you need. But other evidence means that you don't necessarily have to use joint taxes as evidence of bona fide, but you want to get legal advice. And I would say here, if you are getting an hour fee for the bona fides of your marriage, get a lawyer, because it means that that's one of the parts that they're really picky about. And if you don't know how to handle it, then it can be a problem for you in the future. Is another declaration needed when applying for green card through T status, or just normal forms and docs needed? It depends. So usually when you already have T status and you're applying for adjustment of status, a, a declaration may not always be needed, but it depends on your facts. It depends on what kinds of information we have to provide as we're submitting the application. What can I do if your spouse refuses to submit evidence requested from USCIS? Time to talk to a lawyer about the possibility of VAWA. If your spouse is refusing to submit evidence, that's a red flag to me that you might be in a situation where you're being mistreated. So get legal advice, look out for your interests, and you may be able to switch to VAWA here. How long would it take if both parents are green card holders and file for a child is 20 living in the US? So that's a tough one, because if your child is 20, if they're out of status, if they say they have student status, that's great because they can maintain their status while you're waiting for the priority date to become current. If they're already out of status, you're going to have a more complicated process. Get legal advice. Go to the link in the profile to schedule your appointment. All right. Can I file for my daughter when I'm getting Social Security benefits? Yes, it's still possible. You may need, it just depends on your income. You may need a joint sponsor to show their income if yours isn't enough. I'm unable to get a number online, what I need to do. So I'm not sure where you're trying to get the A number. How long does it take to get a receipt notice after application is delivered? So I'd say 2 to 4 weeks, just depending on how busy it is. Now, another thing to note here that I wanted to notice as we're sending our applications out, we found some good news. So usually there was a fee for our clients' derivatives for T status to get their work permit upon approval. Well, they're no longer charging that fee for the work permit. It's zero along with everything else. So that's one of the things that I verified yesterday, which was good news for my clients. So we can go ahead and file for work permits for them at no fee when we're applying for the T status. All right, so I have to go. Thanks so much for your time. I'm going to be back again around the same time to answer your questions. So save your questions if I didn't get to it, and put your questions in the comments, and I'll answer as soon as I get on tomorrow again. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.